Well, hi everyone. Welcome. We are here on Facebook and YouTube so far. Hopefully, let us know we're live. And then we're going to go live on Instagram in just a second. When that light goes on, then I can press go live. And here we go. All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to move over so that I can never tell. The Instagram camera doesn't look like it's centered where I'm supposed to be. So let me just see if I can move over towards this way, or I'm not sure because Instagram is delayed. So let me see if I move over this way, if that looks better on Instagram. Nope, it doesn't look better on Instagram. Let me move over this way. Hold on, guys. I'm by myself, and so it's a little trickier with the camera. There we go. That's better. All right, hi, friends. I'm here by my lonesome today. We've got Nancy for tech support. Oh, now I don't know what's going on with Instagram. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Let me just sit here and see if that works better. I'll try this. Sorry, guys, on Instagram, I'm moving my seat around. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're talking about cycles of harm. Cycles of harm. There, that looks better. What are cycles of harm? And should they even be ever in a marriage? What are cycles of harm? Times of relief, of course, you have times of relief. If it was all harm, all harm, all harm, all the time, you would know that. But this is where it gets confusing because there's cycles of harm and times of relief. So let's unpack what this all means, right? What does it mean to be in a cycle of harm with someone, whether it's a parent, whether it's a boss, whether it's a husband? For most of you, it's a husband. And be careful, ladies, what you write on the Facebook page or say on Instagram, as it is public information. That's why we're doing our workshop in a week and a half off of social media, so that you have the privacy that you need to say the things you need to say and ask the questions you need to ask without having your name on social media. You can change your name in the chat and you can be totally anonymous if you want. So we really want to invite you to join our workshop. The link for that is in the scroll below the title, and I'll put that up larger later, but it's leslieburnett.com/join workshop. And we're going to be talking about, if he doesn't hit you, is it still abusive? And how do you know? And, maybe it's not even emotional abuse. He's not calling you names. He just doesn't talk to you. Is that considered abusive? Why? How can you show that it's abusive, at least to yourself? Other people may not agree with you, but you can show it to yourself. So we want you to come into the Conquer workshop. But for right now, just be careful what you put in the chat, because this is our public page. If you do want to ask a question anonymously without putting it on Instagram, without putting it on Facebook, Nancy, could you please put in the feed, both in Instagram and on the Facebook page, how they do that? Because with the new question tracker, I'm not exactly sure how they do that. It used to be one way, but I'm not sure if that's changed. We have a new way to track your questions so that we can be more on top of what you're asking during the feed, because sometimes it goes so fast. All right, so one of the things I say in my book, The Emotionally Destructive Relationship and The Emotionally Destructive Marriage, both the books, is every single one of us, who would be willing to raise their hand and say that you did something harmful to someone? Whether it was your child, you screamed at them, you called them a name, you pushed them, you acted impatient, you did something, you grabbed them inappropriately in a moment of rage. How many of you would ever say that maybe you called your husband a name? All of us are sinners. All of us have done some harm in relationships. We just have, because we don't have even, silent treatment can cause harm. So how many of us can raise our hand and say, you know what? I'm guilty. I have caused some pain in relationships. I've said something I shouldn't have said. I gossiped about somebody I shouldn't have gossiped. I, told a secret of my friend, or I betrayed my best friend because I dated her boyfriend. Whatever we did, we have caused some harm in relationships. So what we're talking about right now here today is patterns of harm, cycles of harm in the same relationship. Right? So all of us are capable of doing a blooper. All of us are capable of doing something really awful to someone, saying a bad word, even committing adultery, doing horrible things. All of us are capable of that if we're not having good boundaries around ourselves and if we're not self-aware, all of us. But when we're talking about patterns of harm, that's a different animal. That's a completely different story. So I've shared this before. I haven't shared it recently, but I grew up in an abusive home. My mom was physically abusive to me, emotionally abusive to me. And one of the fears I had being a mom is that I would be physically abusive to my children. And so this whole, spanking thing, when it came out in the Christian, world when my kids were little, and, I was a little afraid of that because I didn't want to be like my mom. My mom never really spanked me. She just grabbed me, slapped me, threw me, punched me, all those things. She didn't really spank me like a biblical spanking, but I didn't want to be guilty of that. But in a moment of just dysregulation in my own spirit, I became a little abusive to my son. So he was 2 years old. He was throwing a fit in a public place. It was embarrassing me. And he wouldn't get off the floor. And I was in a dressing room of a store, a little boutique. I was trying on some clothes. And of course, 2-year-olds hate watching their moms they have to sit in the stroller, especially little boys. And he was getting a little antsy, and he got out of his stroller and he was throwing a little fit on the floor. And he was embarrassing me because he was throwing a fit that was loud and other people in the store could hear it. And so I grabbed him by his arm and I yanked him up to his feet and I said, "Stop it right now." And he looked at me and he screamed at the top of his lungs. And his little elbow was dangling from his arm, the top of his arm. And at the time, I was a social worker who worked in a hospital. I understood child abuse. And I picked my kid up, took him to the hospital, told the doctor what I did. I didn't lie about it. I called my husband. I told him what I did. I didn't lie about it. I didn't cover it up. I didn't break his arm. He had a defect in his elbow called nursemaid's elbow. The doctor popped it back in. He said, "This is probably going to happen again. You didn't pull him that hard, but it did pull it out. So you're going to have to be more careful." And so he popped it back in, showed me how to do it. But I never, ever, ever did that again. I never was physical with my child again in that way. Did I ever spank my kids? I did a little, a little bit, but I never grabbed them, pulled their hair, any of the slapped them, the things that my mom did to me. And so are we capable of an abusive incident? Yes, all of us can. But if we're a healthy, spiritually minded person, that's not a pattern. We don't repeat that. It's not a cycle of harm. It's an incident of harm. So what I want you to do right now is grab your pen. And I want you to think about what are your cycles of harm in your relationship. So I'm going to give you 4 questions to answer. And I want you to answer these because I think this will help you see, is there a cycle? All right. So whatever the harm, however you're going to describe the harm, whatever the relationship is, most of you is marriage. Okay. But you don't have to put it in the chat. Just write it down for yourself. Okay. I want you to open your eyes. So when was the first time? When was the first time you would call this, whatever this is? He yelled at you, he disrespected you, he raped you, he hit you, he ignored you for 2 weeks, whatever the harm is. When was the first time? When was the first time this happened? Right? Jot it down. When was the first time this happened? For many of you, it will be either in dating or even on your honeymoon. When was the first time this happened? And what happened? The second question I want you to ask yourself is, when was the last time it happened? When was the last time it happened? So, for example, when I ask women this question, oftentimes the first time it happened was when they were dating and when they were on their honeymoon or something like that, that he, yelled at me, or he called me a name, or he, told me I was stupid, or, whatever. And then the last time is a little bit more dramatic. He punched me or he hit me. I remember asking a woman this, and the first time he was bullying her into compliance during, an early part of their marriage. She wouldn't sign on a loan or something, and he was bullying her, spiritually bullying her. And the last time, she didn't want to watch a movie with him because she was tired, and she was going up the stairs to go to bed, and he yanked her down the stairs by her hair. All right. So the first time he was verbally bullying her because she wouldn't do what he wanted her to do. And the last time he physically pulled her hair to pull her down because she wasn't allowed to go to bed. She was supposed to submit and watch a movie with him. Same song, but a little bit more dangerous, a little bit more harmful. Bullying verbally and pulling you down the stairs by your hair is a little bit more dangerous. right? So when's the first time? When's the last time? What's a typical time? What was a typical time? What's a typical time that you would describe of the harm? What's typical in your house? What's typical in this relationship with the person that you're in? So now we've got the first time, the last time, a typical time. Got that? Yeah, I'm seeing some of you put it in the chat. I'm so sorry. Pre-marriage, yeah, pre-marriage. Okay. So what's the first time, the last time, a typical time? And then what's the worst time? So first, last, typical. What's the worst time? What's the worst time? And please don't put that in the chat because I don't want people to know your business that way. What's the worst time? Oftentimes the women that I have talked to has been a humiliating incident, often with sex. You've been raped, you've been hurt in some ways, you've been forced to do something you did not want to do. What's the first time? The last time, a typical time, and the worst time. The worst time. Okay, you're seeing it for yourself, the pattern. This is the pattern. Now, I want you to ask yourself a couple other questions because I want you to see, is this pattern, whatever you wrote down, escalating? Is it getting more dangerous, more harmful, more scary for you? So if the first time he yelled at you and the last time he pulled your hair down the stairs, and a typical time is he screams in your face and his spittle goes into your face, and the worst time was when he raped you anally, right? You see that the pattern is getting worse, more dangerous for you, more harmful, more destructive to your mental, physical, spiritual, perhaps other kinds of health. You're seeing that on your own paper. You don't have to put it in the chat. You see this pattern escalating in danger and intensity. That's often how it happens when you are the frog in boiling water. Pretty soon you're going to be fried. Right? This should not happen in any healthy marriage, ever, ever. Right? There might be one abusive incident. So I had a woman who was stabbed by her husband, who was one of my clients. Her husband stabbed her in the middle of the night. Horrible, horrible. It could have killed her. Didn't kill her. He was arrested for domestic abuse. She said, but he's not abusive. He's never done this before. Really? Are you in denial, sister? She was my age. She was an older woman. She'd been married a long time. Her children were shot. He didn't have a pattern of these abusive incidents. So is she lying to herself, or did something else go on with this man? So he was arrested, and as we dug deep, we found out he had been prescribed a wrong medication that put him in a psychotic episode. And he did something very dangerous for sure. But he wasn't an abuser. But sometimes we see these patterns. Now you're seeing it the first time, the last time, a typical time, the worst time. And maybe he hasn't choked you or stabbed you yet. But do you see that it's escalating? It's happening more often, and it's happening in more dangerous ways to you? These are the patterns of harm that we look for when we're looking for abusive relationships. Are there these patterns, and are they escalating? Now let's talk about the times of relief. Let's talk about the times of relief. Hold on, my phone's ringing and I've got to silence it. What are the times of relief? What does that look like? What does that look like? You can put that in the chat. What does it look like, the times of relief? He's nice to me. He's helping me with the kids. He's not mean to me. Okay, so some of these questions I'm going to answer in a minute. I see your question, Natalie, and I see if you could catch that, Nancy, that would be really, being dismissed, gaslit, overlooked, ignored, stonewalled, told I was too sensitive, treated worse than the dog. Okay, so what are you seeing? Right? What are you seeing? This is not a healthy relationship. But what do the periods of relief look like? What do they look like? Because if it's abusive all the time, why are you there? So there's something happening in these periods of relief that's giving you hopium, right? Something that's happening during these periods of relief that is giving you some hopium. What's happening during the periods of relief? We want to unpack this for you so that you can really look at this. What's happening for you during the periods of relief? He's nice to you, love bombs you. All right, everybody knows that term. He's attentive, he's nice, he's supportive, he's helping you with the kids, he's doing the dishes, buying you things, taking you places, all the things that make our hearts as women soften. We like those things. How many of you would say you like those things? I do, but don't be fooled by them. All right. You can like chocolate fudge as well, but it can be harmful to you if you eat too much, right? Or if you think it's your dinner. It's not your dinner. It's a little treat. All right. I call it the emotional roller coaster, highs and lows, highs and lows. Yes. Buying things, promising. All right. What does he do? Yeah. Hopeful dreams for us, acting normal, acting nice. All right. This is where you're going to get a splash of cold water in your face. And I don't mean it in a harmful way. I just mean to wake you up because he's not waking up. When I did that to my child, I woke up. Oh my gosh, I could be just like my mother. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that. What do I need to do to never do that again? Right? I was a nice mom lots of times. Right? The problem isn't to go back to nice mom. The solution is, how do I ever never become that kind of mom again? So when you see these patterns of abuse and then relief, or harm and then relief, and the relief looks like, oh, he's back to normal. He's back to the man I fell in love with. He's charming. He's fun. He does things for me. He, kisses me when he comes home. He buys me things. He takes me out, all of the things. Those are not the things you need to fix the problem. All right. These are not, I'm not saying they're bad things, but they're not going to fix the problem any more than if you had termites in your house. Vacuuming the rugs is going to fix the problem. All right. So abuse is like termites in a marriage, termites in your marital house. And abuse is doing damage to your house, just like termites do damage to your physical house. And once you know that you have termites, what's the next step? Once you see you have termites, what's the next step? Do you start redecorating your bedroom? Do you go on vacation with the money that you might have? What do you do when your house has termites? What's your next step? Yeah, eradication. What's your next step when you have termites? Get help. Get a termite inspection. Get someone to get rid of the termites. Clean up the damage the termites caused. You do repair work, right? So the thing, call the exterminator. Yes, we had termites in my house this summer. So we were redecorating our kitchen, remodeling our kitchen. And when you're starting to pull out everything, guess what? Well, termites. Or termite damage we saw. Anyway, I didn't actually see a termite, but termite damage. So now what do? Do you still continue to redecorate the kitchen? That'd be ridiculous. That's why I don't recommend marriage counseling. Marriage counseling is not termite repair. Marriage counseling is redecorating the bedroom. It's remodeling the home. That's fine if you have a sturdy home. But when trust and safety have been broken in your home because of these patterns, all right, and you know what your pattern is. How much can you trust him and how safe are you really? Physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, sexually, mentally. When these patterns of safety have been broken, patterns of trust that you can't trust him to do you good, not harm all the days of your life, then decorating the bedroom or going on vacation, those are wonderful things in a normal life, but not when you need to make repair work with termites. And when termites are invading your house or your marriage, going on vacation is not going to solve the problem. Learning better communication skills is not going to solve the problem. Having date nights, him being nice to you, is not going to solve the problem. And so these patterns of harm and cycles of relief, what does it all mean? It means that you are being either deceived or you're deceiving yourself into thinking he's changing when he's not changing. You're just going through the cycles. Bad, good, bad, good. The termites are eating out your foundation of your marriage. There's no trust. There's no safety. There might be some fun sometimes. There might be some affection sometimes, but there's no trust or safety, which is the rocks of a good marriage. Not romance, not fun. Those are the icing, right? If you don't have trust and safety, you have a hard time living with someone, sleeping with someone, sharing your body and your bank account with someone. And it costs you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So some of you are saying, I might have some repair work to make. And I had repair work to make with my son. He was only 2 years old. And so what I said to him is, Mommy is so sorry she did that. And I will never do that again. Now, what did I need to do to keep my promise? I needed to do my own work, right? He's just 2 years old. He's not going to change. I need to change. So what work is your husband doing, or the person in your life who's causing you these patterns of harm? You looked at the patterns. When was the first time? When was the last time? What's a typical time? What's the worst time? Is it getting worse? And how dangerous is it to you and to your finances and to your spiritual life and to your body and to your kiddos? And his charm, which we talked about in our Facebook Live yesterday, is not going to fix this. His charm might be very charming, and his charm might be really lovely to live with when he's charming. But when he's not, it's scary and destructive to you and to your kiddos. And what are you demonstrating to your children by tolerating a house with termites? By living in a house where someone refuses to make repairs? It's good enough. Let's just clean off the counters. We don't have to worry about what's in the basement. Well, your whole house is going to collapse if you don't worry about what's in the basement. So I want to take a deep breath. All of us kind of ground ourselves, because I've said some hard things. And if this is resonating with you, you do not want to miss the workshop. So I'm going to put the big link up there for the workshop. Let me just do that here. All right, free workshop. It's not costing you anything but your time for you to get this information, which I'm giving you to, I want women to stop being abused, Christian women to stop being deceived into thinking things are better when they're not better. The cycles of nice, the cycles of charm, the cycles of relief are not getting rid of the termites. They're just giving you a break from the abuse, which is fine, but it's not long-term a solution. It's not, oh, he's changing. No, he's not. You've looked at the pattern now. The first time, the last time, a typical time, the worst time. How long has this pattern been going on for you? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years? I've been married 50 years this last year. I've been married 50 years to one person. Has it been hard sometimes? Yes. Has there been some damage, hurt, all of the things you have when you live with somebody for 50 years? Yes. Have I never not trusted my husband or felt unsafe with him? Never. Never. All right. And so this is where we really need to understand, yes, God cares about the sanctity of marriage, and he wants us to have long-term stability in our marriage. But how can you have long-term stability in a marriage to raise healthy children when you're not safe and you don't trust the person? You can not love them romantically and still have safety and trust, but you cannot live with someone long-term and not have a huge negative impact on you and the kids if there's no trust and safety, even if there's fun sometimes. So what does that mean for you? So if you're resonating with this, please, please, please sign up for the free workshop. I'm going to give you a workbook, just like the questions I asked you to think about. I'm going to be asking you during the workshop for you to reflect and think about some things so that you can take the appropriate next steps for yourself. We're taking this workshop off of Facebook, off of Instagram, so that you're not in any public place where you would be seen, so that if you need to share some things, you can. And you will find an amazing group of women on that chat. My whole team is on there helping you as well, answering questions. And show up. Give yourself that day. It's going to be March 31st, not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. It's going to be twice. I'm going to do it live. I'll be doing it live at noon Eastern time. I'll be teaching you for about 45, 50 minutes with slides and the workbook. And then we will do an hour and a half of Q&A. So this is an opportunity. If you had to pay to talk to me, I don't even do it anymore, but it would be a lot of money because my time is valuable to me and I want to do some other things. But I do a lot of things for you just so that you don't continue to be harmed and the next generation of children don't repeat the cycles. And so please go to lesliebernick.com/join workshop, all one word. And if you know someone who might need this, please feel free to give them the link to join. You don't have to be in this country. That's why we do it online. We have people from all over the world who come, Africa, Australia, who come. We want you to be there. And if you can't be there for some reason, then you'll get a replay, but you'll miss a lot of the good quality Q&A and you'll miss the chat. And the chat is lovely. The chat is sometimes heartbreaking, but it's wonderful. Just like you're seeing here. Oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only crazy one. I'm not the only one who's put up with this for so long. I feel so stupid. Why did I put up with this? Because we're taught to. We're taught to forbear. We're taught to forgive 70 times 7. Haven't you heard that in the Bible, right? We're taught to sacrifice ourselves for the well-being of everybody else, but the detriment of ourselves. But is God really asking us to do that? And are you really sacrificing for the well-being of your husband to continue to allow him to abuse you and the kids? No, that's not even for his well-being, right? Or the well-being of your marriage. So I would love to answer your questions. We've talked a lot about stuff. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, put it in the chat, or Nancy, if you can tell people how to do the question tracker. I'm not quite sure how to do that anymore. So if you can put it in the chat in Instagram, I see some questions here, so I'm going to look on it right now. We are separated and I blame myself for his acting out because I'm not making any movement toward reconciliation, which I said I wanted. I send mixed signals to him and he feels rejection. Okay. Step number 1. I love that you're recognizing that you're sending mixed signals and that's not fair to him. But I think that it's okay for you to say, I really, really still love you. And I don't know that that's true, but I assume it is by what you're saying. And I really, really do want this to work. But I don't trust you. And I don't see you doing the work you need to do to earn my trust back. So here's a question. Get your pencil, pen. You want to write it down. This is $1 million question to ask someone who's in this place. What do you think you need to do to be the kind of man I can trust or feel safe with? All right? Because here's what's happening that I'm going to imagine is happening in your question. It's all about him. So his feelings of rejection are more important than your need for safety. His feelings of being, I miss the kids and I don't want to be in a house apart from you, and all the things have always trumped your feelings of, I don't like what's happening in our home. I don't like how you're treating me. I don't like what you're doing. His needs have always come first. And so now it's happening again, that cycle of my needs hit your goodwill buttons, because we do want to be good. We do want to be loving. We do want to be kind. And so it's hitting your I'm rejecting him. I'm not doing a good job at this, And so I would just encourage you, you are not rejecting him. You're having a boundary. I'm not rejecting you. I still love you. If you can honestly say that. If you can't honestly say that, don't say that. You might say, I would still be open to seeing this work. All right. That would be a more neutral statement. Right. But I don't trust you. And you haven't done any of the work that would enable me to trust you. And do not tell him what work it is, because he'll do it, but you still won't trust him. All right. So ask him. When I did marriage counseling, or when I do marriage, I don't do it anymore, but when I did do coaching with couples and stuff, I would always ask the guy, I would separate them and say, so what do you think you need to do to repair this breach of trust? It would be like a deer in the headlights. I don't need to do anything. She should just trust me. That's what she should do. That's what God calls her to do. Well, that has zero possibility of any healthy change then. Because if it's just up to you to forgive him, what he's saying is, I'm okay with the pattern. I'm okay with the pattern. You should be too. And what I'm telling you ladies to say is the pattern has to break. If your child had a pattern of being irresponsible with their homework, sometimes they did it, sometimes they didn't. You think they're going to get into a good college? Or maybe today in school system they would, but in my day they wouldn't. You would get an F, incomplete, right? So if you're enabling the pattern by your good virtues of kindness and forgiveness and long suffering and forbearance, take a look. Maybe you need better boundaries, because you're giving him access to you when you don't trust him. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Okay, so I would say to you, stop blaming yourself for his acting out. His acting out is his responsibility, okay? So let me give you some other examples. And this sounds ridiculous, but this is what we're thinking. So let's say that you were driving your car and you were driving too slow, okay? And the person behind you was honking. They wanted you to drive faster, but you were kind of nervous. It was raining and you didn't want, or snowing. You didn't want to drive any faster. So you're driving kind of slow. So he rams his car into your car. And he says, it's your fault. You were driving too slow. That's why I rammed my car into your car. I had to get you out of the way. And you blame yourself. Oh, because I was driving too slow. He had no other choices but to ram into me, right? Or because I didn't have sex with you for 2 weeks, you had no other choices but to go hire a prostitute? Bonk. No. And this is the mistake that we make. We might have some responsibility. We might have done something unkind. We might have been driving too slow. We might have had, if my child was throwing a fit, was that the reason I got dysregulated and yanked him up by the arm? Well, certainly the drama contributed to my losing my temper, but who's in charge of controlling my temper? My child or me? When Moses lost his temper at the Israelites' foolishness, who did God hold accountable for losing his temper? The Israelites? No. He held Moses accountable for losing his temper. So do not take responsibility for someone else's acting out. All you can take, hey, I'm sorry I was disrespectful. You could say that. I'm sorry I don't want to have sex with you tonight, but I really don't. My body is too tired and I can't do it. And if you choose to go watch porn or you choose to go do something else, that's on you. That's not my fault. You have choices here too. Jesus says it really clearly. He says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, or the body acts, or you do what you do, right? In your anger, do not sin. Who's responsible for how they handle their anger? Your husband is. You are, right? Not, I made him hit me. No, you did not. You can't control his hands. You can't control his thoughts. You can't control his body. That's his job to control. So stop that. And you can own, I'm not making any movement toward reconciliation because I don't trust you. And I want to see what you're going to do to repair this relationship. And repair work. So let me just give you another picture so you have this house full of termites. A house needs two things. A house needs maintenance. Like you need to take out the garbage, you need to wash the floors, you need to mow the grass and pull the weeds and all the things. If you want a nice house, you just have to do those things, right? And so if you're not doing that in your relationship, it's going to get cluttered full of junk, right? And you need repair work. We have a leaky roof. We have a broken toilet. We have termites in the basement. All the cleaning of your dishes and making of your beds is not going to solve those problems. So you have maintenance work and you have repair work. And if he's not willing to do the repair work, you can't fix what's broken. And if trust and safety are broken, that requires repair work, not maintenance work. All right. Second question. What if he says he's done the repair work in counseling? You don't do the repair work in counseling. You do the repair work with the person you damaged, right? So he might have learned how to do the repair work in counseling. Or maybe he's talking about the repair work of his own past and hurts and trauma and all that. So I would just be curious and I would ask him a question. Well, what do you mean? Like, I need repair work in our relationship. I haven't seen you do any repair work in our relationship. Maybe you've done some other kinds of repair work, but what do you mean? So this would tell you whether he's willing to talk to you, be open, help you understand, or whether you're just supposed to accept what he says and that's it. And if that's true, you still don't have trust or safety, do you? So what would you need to do to repair my trust? You lied to me. You cheated on me. You took money out of our bank account and never told me. You've hit me. You've raped me. What do you need to do to create safety in our relationship? It's not on me. You broke it. What do you need to do to repair it? And leave that ball in his court and see what he comes up with. Because oftentimes what they come up with is you just need to forgive. You just need to not keep a record of wrongs. And if that's what his thoughts are, then the cycle is going to continue. And you can't change his thoughts. You're not responsible to change his thoughts. Who's responsible to change his thoughts? Him. Just like he's responsible to change or manage his hands and his body so that if he gets angry, he doesn't hit you. Or if he gets horny, he doesn't cheat on you. He's responsible to manage those things, not you. All right. Who wants romance when you don't feel like you can trust or respect a partner who might be putting you at risk? Absolutely. Absolutely. So don't feel ashamed for having a boundary. Hey, I can't give my body to someone I don't trust or feel safe with. And I've used this word picture. You don't give your bank account to someone you don't feel safe with and trust. I don't know you guys, but I'm not giving you my ATM card. I'm not doing it. Not because if you needed money, I wouldn't give some if I needed to. I'm pretty generous with my money, but I get to decide what I'm going to give. I don't allow someone just to rob me. And so why would we let someone just take our body, even if they're our husband, without our permission, when we don't feel safe with this person and they treat us as if we're his property, an object, instead of a person? That's not what sex was created for, just to let him satisfy his urges. Sex is an intimate act of unity and love and mutual caring and vulnerability. It's not just someone having an orgasm. That's not what God created the marital bond to look like. And so it's perfectly reasonable and okay for you to say, hey, I don't trust you. I don't feel safe with you. Intimacy is the last thing I want with you. We have to repair our relationship. It's sort of like saying, I've got termites in the basement. No, we're not. We're not buying a new car right now. That's not where we need to put our money. We need to fix the termites. And if he's not up for that, pay attention, because your house will not survive. And what are your kids learning? One of the things I'm going to be talking about in the workshop is your kids need one healthy parent. So it's you, and that's why you're here. And thank God you're here. God brought you here. He wants you to hear these things. It is not his will for you just to be an object to use, the wife, the maid, the mom, the sex object. These roles, not the sex object, but wife, mom, house cleaner, they're not bad things, but that's not who you are. That's what you do, right? And whether you do them well or don't do them well is up to you. Are you going to be a good mom or not a good mom? Are you going to clean your house well or not clean your house? That involves character of who you are, not just your role, but you're also a person of value and dignity. You're created a little lower than the angels. You're in God's image. And he created you and he said, it is very good. Don't lose sight of that. Just because your husband treats you dishonorably doesn't make it true. People treated Jesus dishonorably. Didn't make it true. All right, let me go to another question. How to interpret if husband has done counseling for a period of time and says he no longer needs it because he's done his work, but you still see patterns? We also have very different interpretations about what happened in the past, occurrences of abuse that are unable to be resolved. He continues to say he's not an abuser. That's not his identity. He tries to pursue me and date me, but he cannot admit to the things that happened. So you have two choices. So you can call it quits and say, you know what? We are on two different pages, and I don't think there's a meeting of the minds here. And I can't feel safe with someone who will not own the harm they've caused and the impact that that's had on me. Okay. So that would be one choice. I don't know if you're ready to take that choice. The second choice is to be a little bit more engaged in curiosity. And I don't know how much tolerance you have and what the abuse looked like. So if he actually hit you or raped you or did some of those things and he's not willing to call that abuse, run fast. But if it was more subtle kinds of like love bombing, gaslighting, you're calling that abuse and he's not calling that abuse, I would be a little bit more curious. And I would just say, well, what would you call when you, and then I would describe it. So what would you, so you don't want to call it abusive financially when you took your entire retirement account and put it in a separate account and set it to an overseas account, or when you screamed at me in public and called me this name, or when you pushed me into the car and told me whatever he did, I would be very descriptive about it. So you wouldn't call that abuse. What would you call that in your mind after you've done all your work? What would you call that? And if someone did that to you, what would you call that? So that might be a place for him to reflect a little bit. And if they did it, not just once, but over and over again. So again, we're talking about patterns. So if he just did it once and he says, you know what, I had a bad moment. He wouldn't call it an abusive incident, but I might have said I had an abusive incident with my son, but I would say I don't have an abusive relationship with him. No, I never did. All right. I had a bad incident with him. So I might soften that. If I couldn't take that word, I would take that word, but he might not be able to. So again, look at the patterns that we talked about. What was the first time? What was the last time? What's a typical time? What's the worst time? And then kind of think of those incidents, see the pattern and say, I'm seeing a pattern here. What would you see this pattern called, that you're dismissive of me? Every time I tell you my opinion, every time I say no, every time I don't want to do something, you're preaching to me that you're the head and I'm the foot and I have to submit. What would you call that? And he might call that biblical authority. And you are not going to change his mind. So then you have to decide, do I want to live with a person who believes that biblical authority means he can power over me and control me and treat me like a robot? And that is your choice. I don't think it's a good choice, but that is your choice. Right? So that would be the route that I would take, one of those two routes. You know the story, so I don't know the story enough, but if there has been harm caused to you and your children, physical, financial, spiritual, mental, and here's another angle from it. If I never meant to do it, so I wouldn't call it abuse. If I accidentally crashed into your car So I wouldn't say I abusively drove my car into your car. I was road raging and I didn't abuse you. But I see that your car is broken and that your head is bleeding. And I see that my actions caused you harm, even if I didn't intend to do that. What would be my response as a good person? Not even a Christian person. What would be my response as a good person? Put it in the chat. If you accidentally caused someone harm and you didn't mean it, but you saw that you hurt this person, even a stranger, what would you do if you were a healthy person? Yeah, apologize. And what else? Faith healing. What else would you do? Yes, that would be the minimum. What would you do? What would you do? Wouldn't you say, oh my gosh, do you need me to call an ambulance? Your head's bleeding. Here's my insurance card. I will gladly pay for these repairs. We would make repairs. We would make amends to the level of the damage we caused, right? We wouldn't just say, this is ridiculous. We wouldn't say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was just, texting and I just didn't see the car and I just crashed into your back. But you know what? I am so glad you go to my church. And I'm so glad you're a Christian. Be well and thank you for your forgiveness. Bye. And they drive off. And you're sitting there with the car smoking and a cut head. And they're all happy that you're a Christian and you can forgive them. Isn't that ridiculous? It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And that's what we do in marriage counseling. Someone crashes into you and maybe they didn't quite fully call it abuse because they didn't mean it. You're laying in the road dying and they're like, you're a Christian. You're supposed to just forgive me. Get back up. Let's go. No, you aren't. You're a Christian, but that's not what you're supposed to do. Even if you did it accidentally. Like he didn't want to call it abuse. Did he show any care for the impact of his behavior, whatever it was, on you? And if not, that is a huge warning sign to you that you can't trust him or feel safe. If my husband steps on my toe accidentally and breaks my toe, he's going to say, I'm sorry, and let's go to the doctor and take care of your toe. He's not going to say, why were you so clumsy? You were in my way. It's your fault I stepped on your toe, and get over it because we have some work to do. Right? And so understand that a normal person, when they cause harm, even if they didn't intend it, so they wouldn't call it abuse, but they still would care about the impact. Has your husband done that? And if not, that tells you something. And it's not just one time. Look at the pattern that we've just talked about. Does he ever show care for the impact that his actions have caused you? Whether he labels them the same way you do. They've impacted you. Does that matter to him? Right? If my doctor does something that, nick me, they don't mean to, but they nick me, they're going to care about the impact. Oh my gosh, you're bleeding. Let me take care. They're going to take care of you. Right? If your husband is expecting amnesty and he didn't really abuse you and somehow you shouldn't be bothered by what he did, this is still unhealthy thinking. All right, let me answer one more question. What's your takeaway from today? What's your takeaway for today? What do you do if he completely restricts? Let me get that question here. Lost it here. Completely restricts your access to the finances after you set boundaries. I'm not sure what you did. So here's what I think all of you need some lessons in if you're open. And that is, you don't set boundaries on another person. So I don't know what he felt when you set boundaries on him or set boundaries on the finances, but he reacted to that by showing you that's not possible for you to set boundaries. Because see, I've got stronger boundaries than you. I locked you right out, right? So the only person that you can set boundaries is on you. You can't set boundaries on another person. You can ask them requests like, hey, I'd like access to your password so I can look at your phone. But that's not a boundary. So what he might say, if you said, what do you need to do to rebuild my trust? He might say, I could give you access to my phone. That might work. But that's his decision, right? Not your demand. You must give me access to your phone. You can't control that. He can do all kinds of ninja tricks, especially for those who are less tech aware, to hide things. So he can sneak in different ways. So what your boundary is about is, I won't live like this. I won't tolerate this. I won't be married to someone who doesn't treat me like an equal partner. Those are your boundaries. I don't know what your boundaries are. Those might be some of my boundaries, right? That I won't tolerate being talked to like this. So I'm going to end the conversation. I can't make you stop talking to me that way, but I can stop listening and I can leave the room. Now, if he pulls my arm and doesn't let me leave the room, that says something to you, doesn't it? That says something to you. And that puts you in harm's way because you're not allowed to have agency in your own home choices. So boundaries are about stewarding you, not controlling another person. So perhaps it backfired on you when you tried to put some boundaries around how he could spend money and he decided, I'm not even giving her any access to the money. So we're not putting boundaries around him. You can't watch porn. Give me your passwords. You're not, that would be treating him like a child. That's not your place, right? I'm not going to stay married to a man who watches porn. It's a boundary, right? So you decide who you want to be, because I don't want to be married to someone who watches porn. That's icky to me. All right, that's a very simple boundary. And then you have to be strong enough to execute that. And so part of what we're going to teach you in this workshop is, how do you get stronger? What beliefs do you need to break up with that are keeping you stuck in this cycle that we just talked about? Because you're in a cycle and you've been staying in the cycle, right? We've named the cycle. When was the first time? When was the last time? What is the worst time? What is the typical time? You see it. Is it escalating in frequency and intensity? Maybe. It's getting more icky. It's more unsafe, more dangerous. And you're still there. Why? Because you've got your own work to do. And so quit trying to fix him. Quit trying to save your marriage right now. Right now, you need to understand, what beliefs do I need to break up with that are keeping me stuck in this destructive place, that are keeping me in hopium, that are keeping me blind to what's really happening. And so that will be part of the workshop that I'm going to teach you. A couple of beliefs that you need to break up with that you've been taught as a Christian in a Christian church that are not true. Like God hates all divorce. That would be one belief. I'll give you a hint. But there's others. And I think that it would be well worth your time to invest in yourself for a little bit. You've done it for Facebook Lives all this week. Invest in the workshop. Come, show up, and be there. Be all there. Because God has you here for a reason. He doesn't like what's happening in your house. He doesn't like what's happening to you and to your kiddos. And the sins of the father are repeated in the next generation unless they're changed in the current generation. And you can make those choices to be the healthy parent, to not tolerate this crazy making, oppressive, unjust marriage or relationship. God cares about relationships, but he cares about healthy relationships. And he also cares about truth and honesty. Ephesians 4 says, do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead expose them. Now, by exposing them, we don't mean put it on Facebook or Instagram, all right? By exposing them, I mean bring it to the light. Look at the termites. Pull the board up and look. Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness. Instead, pull up the covers, pull up the boards, and look and see what's going on. Bring the light to the dark so you can see more clearly, because Jesus tells us when your eye is healthy, your whole body will be filled with light. But when your eye is cloudy, your whole body will be filled with darkness. And here's the trickiest part. The worst situation is when you think you see clearly, but you don't. And Jesus says how deep that darkness is. And so I would just encourage you, my friend. I wish I could give you all a hug. I wish I could be here with you in person so that we could really dig deep. But it's just not possible. But it is possible for us to do far more than we ever could do through Zoom, through internet, through Facebook Lives, all the teaching that we can do. I've made a commitment. I'm not writing any more books. I've got limited time left on this planet. And I think the best thing I could do is teach the masses this way and not sit in my room for a year writing another book. And so all my new ideas and all the things that are coming out in these things, in these workshops and these webinars, because they can put into a book later when I'm gone. But right now, this is important that you understand what God has for you and what he wants for you and what he asks you to forbear and what he asks you to say no to. We don't forbear every sin. Sometimes we say, not doing that. Not doing that. It's not good for me. It's not good for you. And I will no longer be a silent partner to your destruction and to our destruction as a family. Not doing it. And that takes a brave soul. And if you need a little brave and you need a little strength and you need a little support, come to the workshop, because we are going to be opening our doors to conquer afterwards. And you can join to get that support and encouragement from a community of godly Christian women who really want to do the right thing, but staying in an abusive relationship as a victim over and over again is not the right thing. So how do they begin to change that? So I would love to hear what some of your takeaways are today. What are some of your takeaways from today? What is God saying to you today? Put it in the chat. I would love to read that. And I'm going to answer one more question while you do that. How do you respond to the question of what do I need to change? He isn't physically abusive anymore or yelling me. I just don't trust him. He says he's reading the Bible and praying to God. And I might say to him, I don't know what you need to change, but God says that we all need to change, that we need to put off and put on. Ephesians 4 says that we need to put off our old self and put on our new self. So as you're reading the Bible, what is the Holy Spirit convicting you that you need to change to be the kind of man he wants you to be? That would be $1 million question you could ask him. And if he says, wow, that is such a good question, let me think about that, that would be great. If he says, why do you always ask me these questions? Just leave me alone, or that kind of thing. Like, it's not your business. That'll give you more information. So if a person is growing in the Lord and you say, I'm glad you're reading the Bible. I'm glad you're praying. And so God is in the business of transforming us to his image. And he tells us that we're to put off some things and put on some things. So what do you feel like God is convicting you of? And see what comes out of his mouth, because out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So I'm all about asking people curious questions. You find out, not attacking, not accusing, not defining. I want to ask them, because what comes out of their mouth tells you a whole lot. And so think of some curious questions you can ask him, not demanding or questions that are accusing or attacking, but just curious questions like, what's God sharing with you in the Bible as you're reading it? What kinds of things are you learning about the man he wants you to be? And see what he says, because that will tell you a lot. And so then if he says, I've learned that I'm a really proud man, or I've been a really harsh man, or I've misunderstood the Bible and thought that headship meant that I should, order you around. I realize that's not what it means at all. Those are all good things. But if he shuts down or gaslights you or attacks you, then you know that he's really not reading the Bible and praying like he says he is. And then you have some harder choices to make. All right. All right. So what has been your aha moment today? What has been your aha moment today? I need this brave. I need this brave. And I see a lot of hard things in the chat that you've bravely shared. I want you to be careful with that. But hard things in the chat. And so my heart goes out to you. So I would like to just pray for you before we go, because I can't be in your house, but the Holy Spirit is in your heart and he will direct you. So Father, I just pray for these women who have some hard decisions to make, and they live in some dangerous households. Pray that you would put their brave on, that you would tell them that you call them to strength and dignity, to wear that as a cloak, Father, that you will give them the strength to do the right thing at the right time, in the right way. I pray that they would show up at the workshop so they would learn how to do that. And that they might possibly also avail themselves of the opportunity for extra support, if that's the right thing for them. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we will be back on Monday, and let me tell you what we're going to be talking about. Let me just look at we're going to be talking about, does respect and biblical submission mean you never get to say no? Does respect and biblical submission mean, as a wife, your no is gone? Once you say I do, you're never allowed to say no again. Is that what that means? Some of you live in a household where that's what it feels like it means. So let's look at what God says it really means. All right. So have a safe weekend. You've done some hard work today. Pay attention to what your takeaway was for today, because I will instruct you and guide you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. You're here for a reason, my friend. Don't take that lightly. The Holy Spirit is trying to open your eyes to some new things. And I will see you on Monday. All right? Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.